Just really, really quick. My name is Erin Webb, and I am the founder and owner of Vita Vital. And really, I did this project as a way of taking up the mantle of responsibility and reaching out to other women who are in similar positions as myself, going through the ebbs and flows of dealing with the pandemic, dealing with ourselves as mothers, women, and daughters, and really trying to find out who we are and how we can be more present. Last week, for those of you who didn't join us, we began to speak about the process of grounding and the importance of that. And Denise did a wonderful visual of coming back to bowl, coming back and bringing in the presence. And so today we brought on an additional guest, and that is Kylie Schottenfeld. And she is just lovely. She is going to be our yoga coach through the all the different programs. She's been with our youngers and are hopefully with us and very soon in the future. So Kylie, maybe you can start by introducing yourself really quick, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm just so thankful to be here with all of you guys, and I'm so thankful that Erin has created such a beautiful platform for all of us to connect. Women, children, different groups. It's such a beautiful space for everybody to come together, especially during such a hard time. My name is Kylie. I am a certified yoga teacher and trainer and life coach. And my favorite thing to do is combine those two aspects. So oftentimes in my sessions or my trainings, I love to take tools from yoga teachings as well as coach teachings and combine them to really create this foundation of what Erin brought up earlier. And that is creating a sense of grounding and feeling connected to yourself through the positives, the negatives, and everything in between in life. So to share some of those with you guys today. And when we host these web.
Wonderful. You broke up a little bit, but I think we got the gist of what you were saying.
Uh-oh. Okay. Was it bad or just a little bit?
Just a tiny bit. So that
okay. Perfect.
I felt what you were saying. So
good.
It was sent with good energy. All right, Kelsey, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Kelsey Kehoe, and I'm a licensed marriage family therapist in California. I'm also Erin's sister, her little sister. And yeah, I have been practicing as a licensed therapist for the last almost 10 years. And I work with children, I work with teens, I work with adults, a wide range of people and issues. And I'm really excited to be here and be a part of Vita Vital and offer my services through groups, through art therapy, as well as just empowering women through these wonderful groups. And yeah, thank you, Erin, for having me.
Thank you for coming. Denise?
Well, hello, everybody. I'm sorry you get to see this picture. It's a technological glitch, so I will just do a brief introduction. I am the matron, I think, of the group. I am a what I want to say, degreed educator, a certified coach in 3 distinct areas: life coaching, parent coaching, and then transformational presence. So what I've done is built a coaching practice around supporting parents when they are in conflict with their child's direction in life, whether their child is failing in school, struggling with anxiety, having some learning challenges, anything that is very different than the parent is used to working with. I work with bringing the parent and the child into alignment, and I work specifically with the parent on their where their conditioning, where their expectations, where their ideals are, and then we shift the family into homeostasis. So that's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. And most recently, it seems like I end up working specifically with mothers, which is one of my favorites because, you know, having an experience as a parent myself, I've raised 3 kids who are all now young, flourishing adults. I get to sort of work with what is it like to hold yourself and another and another and another, plus a partner maybe and a job. And how do you know what stabilizes you and where you get tripped up and where what works and what doesn't work? So that's been the focus in the last 2 to 3 years, and it's been a lot of fun.
Beautiful. And hopefully next week we'll get to see your beautiful face too.
I hope so.
All right. So last week we talked about coming to bowl, coming to presence. And I wanted to see from everybody that was here, including ourselves, how successful we were at accomplishing this. And maybe some of the things that you put into place after having that skill taught to us by Miss Denise. Maybe Kelsey, do you want to share?
Yeah, I attempted to bring it into practice a couple times, and usually it came at a point where my brain was just frazzled, and I was holding, like Denise was saying, 5 million things at once, as being a mom and a wife and a therapist and a friend and a daughter and all those things, and everything spins together. And so several times when I started to feel my anxiety revving up, I thought about Denise's intervention, which I think is just so great, really just bringing it back. And there's a lot of self-talk of, okay, Kelsey, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. And I had to do it a couple times, and it was really great. So thank you, Denise.
Oh, I'm so glad it worked, Kelsey. and it is not something that we can hold for very long. Even if we could hold it for 3 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, 10 minutes, it's such an accomplishment because it changes our entire perspective of the world around us when we can come into ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd like to add on to that too, because like Kelsey was saying, once she got into the moment of feeling frazzled, when we're time traveling forward, backwards, and as women, I think all of us here especially really look at our empathy skills as something that we hold dear, and how empathy can kind of be a double-edged sword, because what happens is that we go into others' fields and take on the energy of others. And through my practice and my own development and trials, lots of trials of bringing on the energy of others, I think it's a daily practice that we have to go through to understand when we are violating others' boundaries and when we're bringing in the energy of those around us. And so creating that bubble of protection around us. And I truly believe that this is something that needs to be practiced in a very direct ritual way, morning, noon, and night, when you are in a place of calm, where you're taking that time to cleanse, get all the energy of the day off of you, and coming to center. So then when you are in that place of frazzledness, of just the energies swirling around you, that you are going to be able to come there that much easier. That muscle memory will be there. So with that said, I've got a few that I can share, but I'd like to hear from Kylie first, is some of the rituals that she has put into place from the perspective of yoga that brings her presence and grounding to the here and now.
Thanks, Erin. I love how aligned things are sometimes. I just finished a weekend of my advanced teacher training, which is hosting a space for yoga teachers who are already established teachers looking to advance their practice. And our whole weekend theme was finding your voice. And one of the biggest messages and the takeaway I told them, if you learn anything in this weekend, I want you to learn how to hold space for yourself, right? As teachers and caretakers, therapists, coaches, we learn how to hold space for others, but it's this idea of holding space for ourselves so that we're able to show up for our people even more. And playing with this idea of what does it mean to hold space? It's looking at a situation and actively listening without judgment, without control, without trying to come up with a response immediately and also not trying to fix it. And that goes for listening to other people, but also listening to yourself. And the best ways to practice not only holding space for yourself, but filling that container up are things like yoga and mindfulness and meditation and breath. And it doesn't have to be a whole hour every day. Science studies show, one of my favorite books is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. He's an amazing neuroscientist, and he talks about how just 1 hour practice of yoga and breath work a week can help lower stress levels and be more conscious, which are ways to help us hold that container for ourselves. And it sounds like what Denise was talking about last week, this coming home to yourself, they're all connected. They're just different ways of saying it. Even if it's a moment at your desk, like Kelsey was talking about, I feel myself getting frazzled, and reminding yourself to take 3 deep breaths into your belly and come home to yourself, hold that space for yourself. Like Erin said, that energetic boundary. Carla McLaren, another favorite author who wrote The Language of Emotions, does a beautiful job of teaching us how to almost set up this imaginary force field where you can still see and connect. I like to call them kind boundaries, but you're not taking on other people's stuff and you're not putting your stuff on them. And there's this kind energetic boundary where, you know, I love the mantra, I see you, you see me, but I'm not taking on your story and I'm not giving you mine either. And we can live in this space of harmony. Are kind of the practices, the self-talk, the physical practices, and the heart practices that I like to incorporate for things like that.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Kylie. Very much in synchronicity.
Yeah.
What about you, Denise?
It helps if I turn my microphone off in between. I was watching Kelsey do it, and I'm like, you know, it's such a good idea just to mute when you're not talking, and because, you know, there's noises in the background, and I've got a gardener out front, so it was good. The tool that has worked most effectively for me, and the reason I use the concept of coming to ourselves, it comes from a lot of different places. It comes from Alan Seale in Transformational Presence work, where he's talking about the value of presence. It comes from Susie Miller in her work with autism, and she has a program called Awesomeism. And what I'm beginning to learn is that when we go to that center place, when we gather it all into that place where, as Kylie just said, you take 3 deep breaths, right? Or as Kelsey mentioned, just being able to get into that bowl for 3 seconds. What it does is it takes us, it's almost as if we could imagine the world out there is on one platform and we're on another, and there's a gap between them. You know, like there's a world out there I want to connect to, but I can't find it. In the midst, I'm in all this asteroid, like jing, 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 and all this chaos going on, and I need to be able to connect to a platform of peacefulness, of consciousness, of compassion. And so what we do is by just taking our system and resting it, and it's what meditation is about. It's what taking quiet time is about. It's what yoga poses are about. When we go to that place where there's no mind, where there's nothing that we're holding on to, we're attached to, or thinking about, we sort of magically enter into a space, another platform of connectedness to everything. And all of a sudden, the lens in the world gets a little softer, like the baby's yelling doesn't really bother you that much. Or the traffic, it's all of a sudden you realize, oh, this is actually a pretty good song, and I can relax in the car and not get so enraged at how slow we're going. It doesn't matter which lens, where you point your attention, it means that it softens and you start to feel more connected to it. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is a larger concept of connection to ourselves and to the whole. And so the imagery that I've been using is come to presence and then attach to the collective with my breathing, and let the collective feed me. And it means that we shift from the head down into the heart, and the heart opens up and expands, which is so much greater in its capacity than the brain is. So we have to be able to, you know, if it's a platform, sometimes I imagine spaceships, like you move up and you go over to this one. Sometimes I imagine just going from head to heart and expanding. And so that connection is what I need the most when I'm spinning, and I forget to seek most often until I connect. And then once I connect, it's all there.
Absolutely. And, you know, to add something to that some of us, what I've really noticed in this time as the chaos is swirling around us, that it's also bringing up those traumas that we have stored within our bodies, and maybe something that we haven't necessarily dealt with. It's churning up the waters, and we can see that in what people are maybe posting on social media or what we're seeing in our political and social environment. And we can see that even within ourselves. And I've seen it a lot with the young adults that I work with, where the traumas that they have gone through, and those could be the smallest things of rejection, or figuring out who you are in the world, a loss of a parent, any number of things, expectations or programs that they themselves have taken on from their parents, and are trying to play out into the world. And now that we're alone in ourselves, not knowing what's happening in the world and having to really ride the waves as they're coming in, those are coming out. And so it seems to be a place of the mentalization is the place where people are going to, right? And the heart is really difficult to access because of those stored traumas. And so some of us who, you know, I've just recently started practicing meditation and prayer on a regular basis, but and realized that, and I want to kind of go take it back, because some of you may be in that similar place and say, I've never done this before. How do I stay present? My mind is going crazy all the time. And how do I get these traumas out of my body? And so we're going to go kind of back to the basics here of how does that look for you? Because meditation isn't always, you know, that visual that we have of everybody sitting on the top of a mountain, because God knows not all of us are living near mountains or by the beach or any of those things where we're able to get that presence with the collective. It is really something that can look different for everybody. And it may be meditation in motion. It may be singing from a very heart place center. It may be during yoga poses, or just stretching, because figuring out where in your body you store the energy. And sometimes it's the body that will tell you that you're out of alignment prior to knowing in your brain, having that mentalization of it, or in your heart. So you could be feeling that energy and anxiety in the heart, or you could be feeling a tension in your hips. I've found that a lot of us women, we do carry that tension in our hips, at least I do, also in the shoulders. And going to that place and finding a way to release that, and then see what sort of thoughts and feelings and how that affects what's going on in your heart and your mind.
If I could add something, Erin, to that. I love how you kind of backed it up a little, because that is something we run into a lot, right? It's like we have this idea of what we think meditation is supposed to look like, or coaching sessions are supposed to look like, or yoga, or all these modalities. And backing it up even more, I like to teach it in the sense of we have 4 voices. We have the voice of the mind, which comes through in thought. We have the voice of the heart, which comes through in feelings. We have the voice of the body that comes through in sensations. And then we have the voice of the soul that comes through in that intuition, that gut instinct we get. And then we get to put language around all of those to communicate and connect those things. So it can be as simple as finding that positive affirmation, and not in a fake sense of fake it till you make it, but facing it till you make it, and really realizing, what do I need to hear? Acknowledge the truth, tell yourself the truth, but then also feed yourself and strengthen these neural pathways in the brain so that you're thinking in the way that's going to help those traumas, or addressing the emotions, addressing the physical senses. And meditation is not creating a clear slate in your mind. It's like Erin said, maybe it's a moving meditation. It's anything you're doing mindfully mindfully, right? Mindfulness these days, but essentially all it
Nope, you broke up really quick.
means is that I don't know why I'm not getting a connection error. Am I back?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you were about to explain mindful.
Perfect. Let's make sure we're good. There we go. I was just going to say that mindfulness isn't this idea of clearing your mind of all thoughts or sitting perfectly still. It can be going for a 5-minute walk in the morning or at night and just paying attention to your feet on the pavement, the sounds of nature, and then creating an intention for yourself that you repeat. So kind of letting go of the stigma that meditation needs to be this space where you go and your mind's totally quiet, but more of creating a sense of connection and mindfulness where you're paying attention and there's an intention behind what you're doing and why you're doing it, whether it is sitting in stillness or going for a walk or breathing deeply, and knowing that there's all these practices that you get to adapt to what's going to work best for you. Maybe an hour of yoga isn't what you need, but maybe 5 minutes in the morning, like Erin was saying, of prayer or meditation in a way that works for you. So keep that open mind as well, that there are ways to adapt all of these practices to work for what you need most, to help work the trauma and use the different voices to process that trauma.
Absolutely.
Kylie, I love what you're saying. And you can appreciate this. When I'm scattered the most, I make sure that I plant my feet and I center myself, and then I go into like just the first stage of a sun salutation. I put my hands together over my heart and I bring it down and I go, back, Denise, get back here. We have to be here. And then when I'm ready, I point up towards the sky and I look up and I arch my whole body and I go, get in your body, feel your gut, feel your mind, feel everything. And I bring all my elements in, and then I bend over and exhale, and then I come up. And that may be all I can do at any given time. And sometimes you'll see me in the grocery store, just like I'll stand for a minute and my hands will go to my heart and I'll just go, breathe. And so these are, this isn't a formal practice where it can be, of course, but it can be something very simple like stop. Just don't take another step in this direction. Stop, regather. And that's where we go into the concept of choice, which is we get to choose at any given time. Do we step further into the chaos, or do we find a way to neutralize it so that it doesn't continue? And I like that analogy of, we always talk about men in directions, right? I'm going to head down this way and I'm never going to stop and I'm never going to ask for directions. But what we can do is at any time stop and go, this road is no longer interesting to me, or I don't like this way. I'm going to turn around, go back and find another direction. And so that's all we're doing, is stopping and saying, this is not working. Give me a second to regather and back out and start again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Behind me here, I have a visual that Denise has had me working on, and she's shared in her practice, and I want to share with you all. And I wrote the name down because the humor of it is that I realized I was pronouncing it wrong and had completely heard it wrong. And it's called the circumpump. And Denise, maybe you can, since you can't show your video, I'm really glad that I thought of printing this out. Is that perhaps you can share the power of this and some of the transformational processes that can happen when you print this out. And this is something I will send to each of you at the end of this, so you can have it as a template after Miss Denise explains more about it.
Oh, wow. I saw it on your desk. I was so excited. I thought, if I need to use it, since I don't have my video, you can throw it up for me. It's perfect.
It's as if we planned it. And I have my feather that I collected, because I have my bird friends and butterflies. The more I practice now, the more the animals come and visit me. So I'm excited. So I just put that there.
Excellent. Okay, so the circumpunct is the most ancient symbol that we found on any archives, any hieroglyphics, anything. It traces back to 12, 13, 20,000 years ago. It is the symbol of the sun. and so it could be Ra, it could be a lot of different symbols. In astrology, it's the symbol of the sun. And so a friend of mine, Bevan Neiman, who works with highly sensitive and empathic energies and coaches them, the two of us did a presentation and we dug this symbol up and we started to play with it. And so we talked about it, it's the self in the center. If you go ahead and hold that up for a minute, Erin, it's the self in the center, and the circle on the outside can be the outer external world. What happens on the external world can bump around and go up and down. And in a day-to-day, you can have extreme busyness or extreme slowness. You can have anger, you can have joy, you can have tiredness, you can have peacefulness and rest. You can do all of those as they move around on the outside of the circle. Now, the other part of it is that center being, or that center dot in the middle, is us at our being, right? So what Bevan and what I did and taught Bevan how to do, which blew her away, was we put it on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we needed to gather ourselves, when we needed to do some deep introspection, when we wanted to play, then we started to play with, when do we access the power of this circle? And so we put it on the floor and then we stood on it. And then we allowed everything that came up out of that center dot to inform us of, oh, this is what it feels like when I'm in my body. This is what it feels like when I can tell that I'm separate now from the external world and I'm paying attention. And so what I would recommend is, just get a piece of paper, draw a circle, put a dot in the middle. And when you feel like it's time to go experiment a little bit with what we've been talking about, put it on the ground and stand on it. Erin, what was your experience when you did that?
Yeah, I've over the last week, I've been doing that as a part of my morning and evening ritual. Even got my son involved in it. So when I first did it, it was amazing how my body wanted to go, because I shared with you all that a typical meditation stance for me doesn't always work, and that I have a lot of energy pumping through me. Kelsey can attest to this. When we would be in Costa Rica, we would go on the exact same walk. And she's like, how the heck did you get more steps than me? We were together the whole time. And that's just the way my body is revved up. And so I would feel myself going, and feelings of boredom were coming up, which I know a lot of us are experiencing now with what's going on in the world, feelings of anxiety, and I would start feeling it in different parts of my body. So gradually, as the time went on, I was able to be more present and get to that point. Interestingly, what came up for me is that when I was able to speak or intone or sing, when I was in that place of very sort of rhythmic singing, then I was able to center myself. So it's gotten a little bit more each and every day, and more visions have been coming to me of peace and connectivity.
It's also great for problem solving.
Yes.
Like you're mulling something around, and some of us can perseverate on it and wonder, what is going on? You can go stand on there and ask for clarity. It is a sovereign tool that helps us identify who we are and what's important to us, period. We're the center of our own universe.
Beautiful. And then, of course, Denise had this other really beautiful visual, and you can explain it too.
Well, that's the magician card on one of the tarot cards that I have. And I always imagine that stem coming up, and the beginning of that lily pad is that dot in the center of the circumpump. And everything else around is just information that helps us be who we are. And I like that she's present. She's completely stripped away of anything that she's layered herself with, and she's just paying attention to what's talking to her. And of course the stars start talking. And so this, in the tarot cards, this is the magician, where we now have access. And Kylie, I loved the description of the languages that you used, of the mind and the heart and the body and the soul. We now have access to all four of these. When we're not incarnate, we can move around in the ethereal, of course, but we don't have a body that we can experience anything. We can't smell or taste anything. we don't have little flip-flops in our body from our soul talking to us. We don't have this thumping and emotional responses and feelings coming up. And this is what being human is all about. So the magician is like, oh my gosh, I'm in a body and I get to play with these 4 elements now. What am I going to do with those?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kelsey, what about you? What are some other grounding techniques and abilities to stay in your body that you have taught others within your practice?
Yeah, as Kylie was talking about kind of having the shield, it made me think of an art project that I like to do with my clients. And what that is you can have just a simple piece of paper. And the first step is to create some sort of like a vessel, some sort of a container, so to speak. And that can be whatever speaks to you. It could just be a circle. It could be a vase. It could be a box. It could be, there's really no, it could be a heart. It could be anything. And in the center is you, kind of like what the image that you were just showing, Erin. And it's all the things that you want in your life, all the things that you can control, all the things that make you feel love and happy and grounded, so that might be like, yoga, meditation, nutritious food, music, my sons, my partner, things that make me feel good, and then on the outside, I would put things that I can't control, things I want to keep out of my boundary or out of my vessel. So that could be, politics. It could be, negativity. It could be people that trigger me. It could be chaos. I mean, anything. You can put so many different things. And the great thing is that you can move things around. You can strengthen that boundary around, that vessel, add colors to it. And maybe that's something we can do at a later date because I think it's really fun to explore. So there's that one. And then another thing that I love to do, I was doing it last night in the middle of the night when I woke up and my brain was spinning and I couldn't fall asleep. And it's something I teach a lot of my clients. And it's a breathing exercise paired with a mantra. And so a mantra, really what that is for me is really just a saying that resonates with you. And so it could be so many different things. For me, the one that I like to use is the mantra, just this. And so what I do with that, with breathing, and I usually do it in sets of 4, is when I breathe in, I say to myself, just. And when I breathe out, I say to myself, this. And I do it 3 more times, just this, just this. And what that's doing is it's telling my body, it's telling my brain, it's just this moment, just this right now. This is all that matters. Come back to the bowl, right? Denise, come back to the center. This is what it's all about. Leave everything else behind, leave it all out there because you have to come back into your body, come back and center yourself. And so for me, the just this breaths really, really work. You can do all sorts of different mantras though. Whatever you're dealing with, like I've had clients maybe that are dealing with, self-compassion, wanting to cultivate self-compassion. So, an example of that might be like, I am, when they breathe in, they say to themselves, I am. And then when they breathe out, they might say to themselves, worthy or good or powerful, whatever you're dealing with. So I find that that's a really helpful tool for me and for my clients as well.
I love that, Kels. I really love that. And to add just a quick little story that I feel like all of us in this group will resonate with, especially since so many of us have worked with kids. I love how sometimes they teach us the lessons, right? Like we come to the table preparing to share and teach them, and then they end up giving us a lesson. And I remember teaching this kids yoga camp one summer, and we did this activity after yoga where they got to color their own mandalas. And for those of you that might be curious what that is, it's a geometric shape in yoga, and it can represent a lot of different things. And so we were coloring these mandalas, and I questioned the kids after. I said, pay attention to what colors you chose and what they mean. And if you want to share why you colored it the way you did, you can. And I had this one little girl who was only 9, And she said, you know, I chose some dark colors in the middle because sometimes I feel that way inside and I feel a little sad. Then I put all these bright colors around it because I know that no matter how hard something might be, that there's always the light too. She's 9 years old, you guys. And I was like, okay, girl, you want to teach all my classes and just follow me around because I need to hear that. And I loved it because the underlying message there was that we can do all these tools to make ourselves feel better and to get our minds right and get our hearts right. But if we also don't tell ourselves the truth of the hard stuff, then we can't let the light in. And so finding that balance of all these images that we've had and Kelsey's art therapy and Denise and Erin's imagery, and knowing that there's the light and the dark and that they come together to set you free. And all of these tools are to recognize both. And while we're actively working to feel better and find these moments of joy, that we're also allowed to just take that deep breath and say, this is really hard and this is really challenging, but this is what I'm doing to move through that, rather than shutting down or trying to go around it, but using these tools to give you the strength to move through those challenges. And that's where I'll stop that one. So thank you guys.
That's fabulous, Kylie. Thank you.
I'm going to unmute myself now. I shouldn't have done that, but I found myself talking, you know, and it's interesting in these moments of coming to presence, you know, especially when you know somebody well, you can find yourself going in and trying to complete some of the things that they're saying. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna try this, but old habits die hard, I guess. So I know I shared a little bit about my own energy being on going really, really fast. And then some of us have a difficulty accessing energy, and maybe we feel depleted. Maybe we haven't gotten enough sleep during the night, or our anxiety has taken over and we're running all night, or we're just feeling, because of things that are going on, or those dark moments are coming. And one of the tools that I've learned in the last few months through an amazing teacher, his name is Andrew Bartiste, and I can also send you all information that he has out. And it was the sun meditation. And I don't know how much you all know of the sun meditation. And I think some of the limitations that we've had in the past related to it is that you have to either do it at sunrise or sunset. And so this is a whole separate one that you can do even when the sun is at its peak. And that's by closing your eyes. And so during my study of the Reiki, and especially when I was processing a lot of these deep emotions, and as they were coming up and causing distress within my body and anxiety, the going out and closing my eyes, looking up at the sun and imagining it beaming in was the most amazing tool, because it really felt like I was back in the womb and being just rocked into this sort of level of harmony. And so it's also a really great way of opening your third eye. It comes in and you can feel it coming in and going into all parts of your body. And so doing that, obviously we don't always have sun or the ability to do that. And here in Houston, I've had to fight the mosquitoes in certain hours during the day and the heat. So, you know, you got to be a little bit flexible with it. But that's something that's really, really, really powerful. And until you do it, you don't realize the power and the energy of it. And so I highly recommend it on top of the circumpunct that we were talking about earlier to come back to center. And I think one of the biggest things to do during that we have forgotten within our society today is to take off your shoes. You know, with the rubber that takes us away from the Earth Mother, we need to take our shoes off, put our feet into the grass or on the concrete, and just really center ourselves for a sense of balance within our body. Has anybody else played with sun meditations?
You know, what's funny, Erin, is as you were talking, I was thinking I've never done a sun meditation, but it made me think about how much I love the sun and how much I love to sunbathe. And that, like, the feeling I get when I'm actually laying in the sun and soaking it up, and like my whole body starts to pulse. And it just feels amazing, and you feel kind of like you're being lit from within. And so I imagine that might be something similar that you have felt, and now I want to go out and with that intention, not just laying in the sun getting a tan, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, it reminds me of those early studies in the pineal gland and lizards that actually have that opening that will go in and lay on the rocks just to bring in the sun, and that's what gives them energy. And so here we have this beautiful place to go out to, and it only takes 5-10 minutes, and it can be something like, now I do it in the morning with my coffee, you know, and drink coffee really quick, do the center balancing, and it's quite lovely. It's quite lovely.
Something, or go ahead, Denise.
Go ahead, Kylie.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to say something else that I thought of when Erin was speaking about. A lot of us here have this high energy, and what do you do when you feel like you're in a place of low energy? A lot of times that message, at least the way I think of it, is that there's an internal boundary being crossed. So a lot of times if we feel this low energy, or we're really apathetic, or we just don't feel right, there's a boundary that needs to be set. And a lot of times we think of boundaries as these verbal conversations or these walls, but they're really not. It's a message to yourself of something needs to change. And so for me, when I kind of fall, because I tend to be really high energy, so when I fall into those patterns of low energy, before I go just start doing my go-to practices, I have to ask myself why, and I have to make that bridge of, why am I feeling this way? And it's often a boundary that needs to be set. You know, that classic conversation in our head of, I'm too busy for this, I don't have time, you know, I got to do this and take care of this and that and that. If we keep crossing that boundary and ignoring that little voice in us that is trying to tell us, just take 5 minutes, do this, we're just going to get more tired, or our sleep will be interrupted, or all these things. So when you guys have that mindfulness to implement the practice or whatever action needs to be taken, make sure you're also asking yourself, you know, what boundary is being crossed, and how can I make sure that I hold this boundary for myself or for other people, whether it's a conversation that needs to be had or just a conversation with yourself of, oh, well, I didn't take my 5 minutes to do my meditation. And sometimes just giving yourself that grace and knowing that's why, then you can tell yourself, okay, I'll do better tomorrow. I know why I feel that way. And then you don't go down the rabbit hole of self-criticism and, well, what's going on? And maybe it's this deeper thing. Sometimes it is as simple as going, I crossed my boundary, I'll reset it, and I'll do better, you know, tomorrow or later today.
Absolutely. And one of the things I've learned from Denise, that no is a very strong word, and the only word, and it is a sentence, a full sentence of no. And that kind of goes back to those crossing of boundaries. So Denise, you were going to share before Kylie started.
Oh, Kylie, you nailed it. It's really about boundaries, and it's where we sell ourselves out. And this is the time when I wish more than anything that I had a camera that you could see what I'm going to do. When we get to this point where we feel exhausted, there are times when I will turn with the client and have them pick up every single thing on their desk and in front of them and try to hold it. So for me, I'd pick up my little mailbox, I'd pick up my stuffed animal that I use for props, I'd pick up my pen and pencil holder, until it gets to the point where I have to press these things against my chest and try to brace them so that they don't fall, right? And what that does is that, and then we hold it for a minute, and I go, so how much room do you have for something else right now? Or how clear are you with where things are, in what order, and what you can do? Is this mental? Is this physical? Is this spiritual? Is this emotional? How many things are you carrying? So actually physically picking up and getting to the point where you've got things braced underneath your neck and you're holding something with your shoulder and you've got your hands in place, and then you go, oh no, I don't have anything in my hands and I'm full. So then we start to put them down one at a time and go, so what happens when we release this, when we put this back down and we slowly unpack our hands, and the whole body goes, because we've used an outer symbol to kind of catch, how many things am I holding right now? Now, one of the tools that I learned as a young mother was I had 3 kids in 5 years, and sometimes that meant 2 in a car seat and 1 in the front, and nonstop anything. And there were times when I would just pull off to the side of the road and I'd go, give me a minute. And I'd walk out of the car, close it. And if they were like, Mom, I just roll the windows up and I'd go stand out in front of my car and breathe. And I'd go, I cannot find my center in the middle of this. And I would just turn and give me 1 more minute. And I think, and sometimes the palpable difference between me when I went out and when I came back, the kids would look at me and they go, hi, Mom. And I go, hi. And all of a sudden the noise level in the entire car just went down because I had to change how I was reacting to it. So at any given time, you can do that timeout. Give me 2 minutes, give me 5 minutes. I'm going to walk to the post office or the mailbox outside. I'm going to walk down the end of the street and touch the stop sign. I'm going to get out of the car and walk around it twice. I'm going to, I'm going to ask for everybody to just have 2 minutes of silence, whatever it takes to just go, I'm all the way out, scattered so far, and I'm full. I need to put some things down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. These are some great tools, everybody. I'm really enjoying them. And just thinking about how I can put them into practice even more. One of the things I do want to talk about a little bit is as we're working on these skills, and we talked more about the traumas that can be being stored or released within our body, especially as we start doing some of the art therapy with Kelsey and the yoga with Miss Kylie, you may find that those are starting to come up and bubble up to the surface. And just based upon the toxicity that you maybe have within your life, and this doesn't have to mean the toxicity of the environment from a purely chemical way. This is also the toxicity of the noise increase that we're currently living in, having 3 children in the car, having a husband or a partner that is doing X, Y, and Z, all of these things that are being focused and pushing up against our energy bubbles, and is to find a place of detoxification. And one of those will be, one of the things that has really helped me is is a whole bunch of Epsom salts. So I get the big, I think it's a 9-pound bag or something. It is a lot. The Epsom salts. And then one of the things that I've also realized that was actually taught to me by Andrew Bartise, and then Denise was given me an even better one too, is to also put in a little bit of coconut oil or an oil that works well with your skin. And basically what that will do is it will open up your pores so you can really have that Epsom salt access everything and work on the detoxification of your body. And this isn't just the 1 cup, like 4 or 5 cups, especially for us that are not near the ocean and aren't able to get out into the water. This is going to be giving you that sort of high saline level to pull out the toxins. And then Denise added in the essential oils. And I know you talked a little bit about that yesterday during our yoga, Miss Kylie. And a couple drops of lavender, a couple drops of your favorite oil, frankincense, any of those things, and that will be a wonderful way of just bringing out the detox and the energies. Because a lot of us right now are not taking care of our bodies. We're not able to go and get those massages and body work that we so desperately need because perhaps it's not allowed within our counties. And so this is a wonderful second way of doing it at home, inexpensive, and it's just your time. And you'll start to see too that certain areas of your body need additional massages or are in places of distress once you're there, and to try to work that out on your own. Self-massage is something that you can also engage in to really access those.
Can I make just a slight correction on that, Erin? Don't put coconut oil, the chunk stuff, in your bath, because it melts really well and it's good on your skin, but it'll clog up your drain. So if you use coconut oil, make sure it's the liquid filtrated kind, because your plumber, your plumbing, your landlord will not be happy with you if you put junk coconut oil in your bathtub. Sorry, that was just one I had to go like, oh gosh, please, let's clarify.
Sure. Especially with our curls, Erin, right?
Coconut oil all the time, and I have to use Drano on my drain. So I know how it does clog it up.
There you go. Yep.
But yes, I use my Kelsey sells oils and different ones through doTERRA, and so she has the pure massage. What's it called, Kelsey?
Fractionated.
Yes, the fractionated coconut oil. So just a few drops of that will help bring it.
Mm-hmm. I'd say when you say self-massage, there's a great technique that I recently learned, and it's you take your hand, the palms of your hands, and then you put them on your knees and you rub, making sure that your feet are flat on the ground, like you were talking about, even taking your shoes off if you can, and you just rub your knees. You can do clockwise and then switch it up and counterclockwise. It's a really good self-soothing tool. And I do it throughout the day. And it just helps you come back into your body. It's almost like giving yourself a little hug in a way. And it just really helps settle things down, at least for me and people I've done it with.
Fabulous.
I love that, Kels. The two little ones that I'd love to add that made me think of it when Erin said self-massage is EFT, or emotional freedom technique. There are full scripts and videos that you can find online, but even just some simple ones, there's these meridian points in our body, and just even tapping on the outside of your hand to bring you back to earth, or the collarbone is a really good one, is a really cool self-care technique that you can do anywhere, right? Even if you're at work under your desk, no one's going to see you if you just do a little tapping on the outside of your hand. And then with yoga, a lot of us, we see yoga on social media and we think it's this like bendy, stretchy, crazy power yoga. But to me, the most beautiful yoga, and we talked about it with the kids yesterday, is restorative yoga and yin yoga and gentle yoga. And even just 15 minutes of that at the end of the day, after or before the bath, and creating this ritual of giving back to your body, especially when we can't go to our energy workers or the other modalities that we enjoy. Just getting on your mat and using props. We use blankets and pillows around the house. You don't even need real yoga props, and finding a guided video online to just connect to your body and stretch it out gently and feel good in your body. And there are tools that you can do even if you don't have a teacher or a healer or an energy worker that you can connect with these days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, one of the things that I've noticed too, is just how much within our heads that we share, especially those of us who are more in the process of mentalization and, in the shoulder area. And if we can't get in to see our acupuncturist or like energy workers, is really getting in and starting to massage deeply in here, in the jaw area, under the bone of your cheekbones. And then, how much of the time, I always think back to when I used to get my hair done. Now I do it myself. But is the best part of it was when somebody was giving you the scalp massage. And right now that's been taken away from us, right? Is when somebody's just been loving on our hair. And so getting in there and really pulling apart, there's a lot of evidence for craniosacral massage and body work that goes on. And so finding a way of releasing those points, you don't even realize. It can also be pulling at the hair to bring a sensation and a relaxation to that area. Has anybody here done cranial sacral massage?
I have, yeah. Yeah, but they didn't really like massage my head very much. That's what I was really hoping for. And and it was more of like it was more of like a Reiki kind of energy, and they did a little bit, and it's really good, but I was expecting like a, you know, a head massage like at the hair salon. So I don't know if anyone else has had a different experience.
I wouldn't say that cranial sacral is a massage technique as much as it's a release technique. So there's, you know, like she'll run this woman I work with in Montana, and she's 8.5 hours away now. So it's really, I'm missing her, is that she'll move her hands up at different spots on my upper spine or the crown of my head. And I'll just feel everything melt and relax from that. And then also tie that into the tip of the tailbone and through the sacral and through the hips. And so having those two sections sort of counterbalanced at the same time means my whole body relaxes from the top of my head to the tip of my tailbone. So it's a highly recommended technique, and there's really good cranial sacral practitioners out there if you want to seek one out.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous, fabulous. So why don't we wrap up now by giving everybody a little information on where they can find us, because we are going to be creating this into a video, and then we will stop the recording and discuss when each of us would be able to provide a class for all of the group. During the evenings, we can talk about schedules and all of that. So you can find me at Vida, V-I-D-A, Vitale, V-I-T-A-L-E, wellness, which I hope you can spell that, at gmail.com or vitavitale.com. Those are two places to find me.
You can find me, Denise Dryden, in a lot of different places right now. My website is denisdrydencoaching.com. I do a series of videos every Saturday. There's about 200 on parenting, on techniques, on centering, on seeing the outer world and the inner world. And that's on both YouTube and on Facebook on my page and on my website.
And for me, I should probably write it out so it's easier to spell, but it's, my website is puravitacounselingservices.com. So Pura, which is spelled P-U-R-A, and then Vida, V-I-D-A, and then counselingservices.com. Or you can email me at KelseyAnnKehoe at Gmail.
Fabulous.
And you can find me, it's a long one, so I might have to type it out too. It's my first and last name. So if you want to email me, it's info@kylieschottenfeld.com. And then my website is kylieschottenfeld.com. And you'll find yoga classes on there and private offerings and anything, some of my sneak peek to my book poems on there, and anything yoga wellness related would be in that spot. And just thank you for having us today, Erin.
It was such a pleasure. I really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much. Namaste and blessings.